We have something absolutely nuts going on right now, and if you're invested in cryptocurrency or in stocks, you really need to watch this video towards the end. We have a lot to cover here today. Crypto's doing really well, but stocks are doing absolutely insanely well. I want to walk through that, talk about why this may be happening, talk to you about a trade that I recently put on, and we'll talk about more than that too. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on that bell notification underneath the video. And I do want to thank Islamic Coin, but I'll talk more about that later. There are links to it underneath the video. I talked about it yesterday, but I forgot to put a link to it. So I want to talk about that. Also, I am doing a trade right now. So I thought a pretty good buying endpoint for Bitcoin. When you look at this chart and when you see a trend like this, where you just consistently maybe go slightly below, but then jump right back above, I think it's a pretty good time to go long. So I went long pretty much right at the bottom here. I'm up 50% because I did a 75x long, knowing it's very risky and it's a small amount of money. But I was able to make 200%, actually about 230% returns on a recent trade. So I turned $80 into about $280. And now I have another $85 trade. If you want to see what I'm doing, there's a link to the Patreon underneath the video. This is for fun. This is risky, but it can pay off. And there's a link to BITGET and to Margex. Margex does not have KYC, and BITGET is really good. Actually, probably a better platform, but it does have KYC. So you can check those out underneath the video. Now, as you can see, crypto is doing extremely well. Bitcoin actually jumped to a new yearly high of almost $36,000 yesterday, which was absolutely insane. I closed out my long around 35,400 or 500. Yesterday, we kept moving up, and then we started to fall down here today. Obviously, there's going to be some volatility. There are going to be some liquidations, that kind of thing. I think, though, overall, the market looks really good. I mean, take a look at this. A lot of people click off when I go over to this page for some reason, but take a look at some of these returns for stocks today. Roku up 30%, Palantir up 20%, Peloton up 17%, Virgin Galactic up 12%, Lucid up 12%, Fubo up 12%, Starbucks 11%, Tesla's up 6%. Now, some of these make me a little bit worried because they're like very high risk names, and a lot of them I don't think have fundamental changes to their business. Some of them did. They had earnings. But this is a little bit crazy when you see returns like this, or you see 10% moves for a lot of very small stocks. Now, a lot of these have been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. So I think that a lot of people are hearing what Jerome Powell said yesterday and thinking, okay, they're talking about stopping rate cuts, and they're talking about how long they need to stay restrictive. This is probably the end of the cycle. This is the end of the raising cycle, and I think a lot of people are plowing money back into companies that they like that maybe are unprofitable now. And we're starting to see money be pumped back into the system. This is one thing that is absolutely nuts. Facing a catastrophic 33% approval rating, Japanese Prime Minister Kishida plans to cut taxes and extend subsidies on electricity and gas as food inflation jumps 8.8%. He approved a $110 billion stimulus plan to fight inflation. I mean, think about that. How would the U.S. react if instead of raising rates when we saw high inflation, we plowed more money into the system? That's just nuts. And I think, again, all roads lead to Bitcoin. I had said that to my family the other day, that pretty much every piece of news you see on a daily basis is good for Bitcoin. Like any bad piece of news, it's good for Bitcoin. It reinforces why we need Bitcoin. It makes it more valuable, even if it doesn't help in the short term. Like, let's say we go into a recession tomorrow, right? We go into a recession tomorrow. It's not necessarily going to push up the price of Bitcoin right away, but it shows, again, why we need Bitcoin, because we got here from having to raise rates too quickly because we had to plow more money into the system, and shows that they're going to continue to do that. So while the price might go down short term, long term, we need Bitcoin. So they're plowing money into the system, and we're starting to see year over year a change in M2 that is pretty bullish for crypto. So change in M2 are major central banks versus year over year change in Bitcoin. we could be at the precipice of a huge bull run. I mean, pretty much how it goes is M2 starts to move up and then Bitcoin starts to move up. And then sometimes Bitcoin is a little bit early, actually. When we know that M2 is going to start going down, Bitcoin starts going down. But you can see, again, M2 starts moving up, Bitcoin starts moving up. They move in lockstep. And Bitcoin is typically a bit behind, but then has exponential moves up. So we saw an increase in M2 year over year. And typically we see a big move in Bitcoin. We're also seeing an increase in total 2, which we'll talk about after I talk about Islamic Coin. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk about partner of the channel, Islamic Coin. So we've talked about them before. A lot of other big YouTubers are partnering with them as well because they have a lot going for them. They've been able to raise over $400 million recently, and they are getting some big listings, including KuCoin as of recently. They also are down here on BITGET as well. So they have a couple big things for you in our community. You can see they're actually up 71% over the last couple days. So they have told me that anyone that's downloading their main wallet, Hack Wallet, will have a chance to win a lot of money. Since they've raised so much money, they want to give a lot back to the community. So they said they couldn't give me specifics, but it could be a significant amount. We're talking 3 to 4 figures worth of their token. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about them, I've talked about them in the past, but let me know in the comment section if you want me to do a full video. They're really trying to resonate with the large amount of Muslims around the world, 1.8 billion Muslims, and they're trying to be the first Sharia compliant crypto that serves the official community of Muslims. So they use the Hack Wallet, HAQQ, to bring in DeFi and some of the needs that the Muslim community has. Now, again, you can download this. I'll leave a link to it underneath the video. As always, do your own research. I'm not telling you to go out and buy anything. I'm just telling you, you should be paying attention to this because they are growing pretty quickly in terms of price, but also in terms of the community. They have a huge community online, and they just have a huge base to pull from without too many cryptos that Muslims can buy as of now due to different cultural reasons. So thank you so much to Islamic Coin for partnering with me on the channel, and let's get back into it. So total 2 is the capitalization of the top 125 cryptocurrencies excluding Bitcoin. Total 3 shows the total market capitalization of the top 125 cryptocurrencies excluding Bit and ETH. So I actually had that wrong. This is total 3 breaking out, not total 2. Now, this just shows that the market cap of the top 125 cryptocurrencies outside of Bitcoin and ETH are moving up. Now, if we break through here, it could be really good. Keep in mind, though, that this is still a series of lower highs. So I have talked about Bitcoin dominance moving up. It's a series of lower highs. I mean, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and then still slightly a lower high here. So if we break out, could be good. But this is also the USD scale. So that's something else to pay attention to. That can still break out and Bitcoin dominance can still move up. And that's pretty much what we've seen. We've seen it move up while dominance has also moved up because there's just more money in the system in general, not in relation to Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind when you're watching that. A couple things on Elon Musk, on Tesla, on Bitcoin as well. We need to talk about Michael Saylor and what he just said. Excited to announce that SpaceX's Starlink has achieved break-even cash flow. This is obviously really important news. They talked about X recently. They give updates on a lot of their companies, and the portfolio of companies for Elon Musk looks very strong. Now, Tesla obviously facing some problems with higher interest rates, but a lot of these companies are looking fantastic and making huge achievements even through this kind of tough time. So obviously that's good for Tesla as well. Less of a problem if his companies are actually cash flow positive than if they're cash flow negative and they have to keep on raising money or pouring money in. Michael Saylor bought an additional 155 Bitcoin for 5.3 million in October. Just announced this. And then he also went on Squawk on the street. He had an 8.5-minute segment. This is the thing that happens when Bitcoin's price goes up. And this is what's going to happen moving forward. They already devote a lot of time to Tesla and to Bitcoin because they're pretty, I'd say they're pretty polarizing. And as the price goes up, they give more and more time, all the time, to these different assets. Now, I would go watch this whole thing. He talks about a lot, but let me play this segment for you, talking about the Bitcoin halving coming up.
Michael, Bob Pisani here. Bitcoin is going to be having a halving next year. That's a rare event. Can you sort of educate the viewers on what happens when that occurs and what, if any, effect that'll have on Bitcoin's price?
Well, most of the natural sellers of Bitcoin in the market right now are Bitcoin miners, and they have to sell to pay their electricity bill and their capital cost and retire their debt. That's about $1 billion a month worth of selling into the market. The protocol forces that to be cut in half as of about next April, late April. So you're going to see $12 billion of natural selling per year converted into $6 billion of natural selling a year. At the same time as things like spot Bitcoin, ETFs increase the demand for Bitcoin. So that's why all of us are fairly bullish over the next 12 months. Demand's going to increase, supply is going to contract, and this is fairly unprecedented in the history of Wall Street.
Again, there's a lot more to cover in that interview, but I wanted to keep it brief. The supply is going to continue to grow of overall Bitcoin, but the new supply is going to be cut in half. So the rate at which new Bitcoin comes to the market is going to get cut in half. So that means we're going to have the sellers, at least the sellers that are Bitcoin miners, that just have to pay for electricity. And there's going to be a lot of demand. So that is a recipe for upwards price action. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video, though. As always, I think all roads lead to Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is one of my largest positions. Actually, I think now it's the largest asset that I have, including my house, how much equity I have in this house that we moved in. I shouldn't talk about how much I have. Rule number 1 of Bitcoin, never talk about how much you have, but it is one of my largest positions out there, along with Tesla, and then I guess some real estate too. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video, though. Obviously, it's very bullish that more money is being pumped into the system. Inflation is coming down. Jerome Powell is pretty dovish, I'd say, compared to normal. Now, he's not saying we're cutting rates tomorrow. He's not even saying that they're thinking about cutting rates. But they are talking about how long they're going to hold rates. And you know what comes after that? Cutting rates. So very good for cryptocurrency. If you want to know what I'm doing in the market, if I'm making any short-term trades or buying long-term, you can check out the link underneath the video to Patreon. And if you want to start trading, Margex and BitGet, there are links to that. There's a link to the portfolio tracker I'm building underneath the video, Bag Tracker AI. And there's also a link down there to Treasure in case you want 15% off of your Treasure cold storage devices to hold your cryptocurrency in a safe place. Thank you so much. Check out Islamic Coin, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.